guys, welcome back to another video, and today we are going to be doing the opposite of what we did last time. Whereas before we talked about the 5 horror books that I enjoyed the most so far, we're going to be looking at the worst horror books that I've read so far. Going to be having some controversy on this list, I can see it right now. This is another 5, a top 5 or a bottom 5 depending on what we're looking at, and I've really... I want to say that I struggled writing this list, but it was actually so much easier to write to write a list of horror books that I just didn't enjoy and just weren't good than it was to write ones that I actually did really enjoy. Maybe that's why I haven't read as much horror, because so many have disappointed me in the past. Also, this is Tom's big hoodie, but it is freezing in the house today, so I'm stealing it. And it's Bill Cipher, so, you know, fit in with the horror, because he's a demonic spooky boy. If you haven't seen Gravity Falls, please do. So yes, let's jump right into it. Let's look at the 5 horror books, novels that are just awful. So the first book on this list, and once again, this is not in any particular order, this is the worst one, this is the least of the worst ones, this is just the order that I wrote them in. So the first one on this list is Asylum by Madeline Rowe. I'm again not sure how you pronounce the surname. Oh god, this was awful. I'm so sorry, Madeline, I really am. Madeline as if we're on first name terms. Never met the woman, probably never will, but I'm still sorry. It was just awful. I mean, it had all of the build-up, like this, you know, loner kid with a slightly creepy past goes to a summer school, and it turns out this school dorm room that he's in used to be an asylum, and there's suddenly a little list of like paper trail clues that are leading him to explain more about his past and how he might be connected to this asylum and the grim, horrible things that happen there. It had all of the potential. It really had all of the potential there. It just didn't do anything with it, and instead opted to be as... the closest thing I can compare it to is Riverdale trying to be edgy. Like this teen drama with some supernatural aspects, but oh god, first of all I've got to deal with my friend being a douchebag before I can go and actually sort out the real mystery. Life is so hard. Like, get over it. I don't know, this whole book just felt like it was aimed at not even teenagers, like I don't even want to say young, like preteens, because that still feels like it's insulting. It just felt like it didn't know what it wanted its audience to be, and as a result, what the hell is this bit of hair doing? Go away. It just felt so whiny all the way through, and nothing really added up to make sense. Nothing really hit home as a good plot point, and it just kind of ended. It not scary at all, and just very disappointing. Second on this list, and I've mentioned this before, and I've said before that it's not a terrible story, and it's not a terrible story. It just wasn't executed well, at all. This is A Little Stranger by Sarah Waters. I think I mentioned this in my book of the month of October as well, where there's good horror elements to it. There is clearly a good drive and a good imagination and a good idea of where they wanted the story to go, but the characters are so whiny and bland and basic and have no development, and any of the scary stuff just kind of comes and goes without any real reason, or people just don't care when it happens, and it just feels like, well, if they don't care, why should I care? And it just, once again, it just kind of ends with no real explanation of anything. And don't get me wrong, elements of mystery and lingering mystery and horror is good, because you want your readers to have a few more questions, you want them to be a little bit confused here and there, you want them to have the lingering intrigue, but you don't want to leave them completely lost either, and this book just leaves you lost and annoyed, and there's no likable characters. Well, if you're not going to have any likable characters, then why should we care what happens to them? Once again, the blinds are trolling me. Number 3 is going to give a little bit of controversy on this list, and I can see it now, and for good reason. And that is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I'm sorry, I know it is one of the classics, I know it is one of the greats, I know that it is, you know, a stepping stone for women in horror, and I have full respect for it in that right. I have full respect that it broke tropes and stereotypes for women writing horror, and I have full respect for what Mary Shelley went through to get it published in the first place. I respect the woman completely, and to have this book still be such a treasure in terms of horror now, power to it. I have nothing against it in that right. But for me personally, I just found it really conceited and not boring, just lacking in places. I don't know, it just kind of felt like I blame the main character, because I'm a very big character-based person. If I'm invested in the character, then most likely I'll be invested in the story. And Victor Frankenstein is just such a whiny, selfish asshole that learns nothing throughout the entire book, and yet he's trying to make everything seem like, oh, woe is me, I created life and I'm abandoning it, and it just won't leave me alone. Like, yeah, because you freaking abandoned it, you twat. I don't know, he ruins it for me. In the fact that it's all about him, it just makes me not want to read about him. He just goes on and on and on, and I cannot stand the guy, and therefore I feel like I can't really get behind the book. I've seen it on stage and it's fantastic. I've seen movies of it and they are fantastic. But each time, because Victor Frankenstein is just such a bad, not a badly written character, but a bad character, I just can't really support the story. And I would, if it was focused entirely from the creature's perspective, I think I'd enjoy it a lot more. But it just goes on and on and on, because Victor Frankenstein won't stop going on and on and on, and it just feels like this entire book just feels like the biggest pity party that no one wants to go to. Number 4 is also going to cause some controversy because it is a Stephen King book. Yes, I have put Stephen King, the master of horror, on my bottom 5 horror books list. I'm sorry. But which book could I possibly mention? Is it Misery? Is it Carrie? Is it Pet Sematary? It is The Mist. Yeah, I know it's a novella technically, but it is still a horror book, so it still counts in my eyes. The Mist just felt so lackluster. It felt like it was trying to mimic H.P. Lovecraft, but not in a way that really sets it apart. But if he tried to do a H.P. Lovecraft thing, but make it his own, then I know he's done that before and it's been brilliant. I know that he's capable of doing that, but this felt like it was like a direct copy, like a fan fiction, and that just isn't how I read Stephen King. So it kind of felt like I should be reading this by somebody else. The story's there, the ending was good, the descriptions were well done, but overall it just felt so rushed with no real build-up or anything, so I don't know, I just felt really disappointed throughout the entire thing. I've seen the movie. The movie's not bad. A horrifying ending, Jesus Christ. The TV series, the less said about that, the better. Oh my god, that was such an epic fail. To a level that I can't even explain. No thank you. I don't know, it just felt like it had the potential but came across as a fan fiction and therefore lost its charm, and it just didn't sit well with me. And the fact that it's Stephen King, it's like, we know you can do better. Number 5 is The Madman's Daughter by Megan Shepherd. I didn't dislike this book, but it was not what I was promised. I was promised kind of like a Frankenstein-style story where this young girl has an illness that she has to take very specific medication for, and she has finally decided, I need answers, I need to know what the hell all of this is. So she tracks down her father, who lives on a remote island, and it's a harrowing journey to get there. When she finally meets him, things are very, very odd from the get-go. There's no real relationship between them, and she starts to see that his work as a scientist may not be as ethical and straightforward as she was led to believe. There's rumours of creatures running around the island, there's no way off the island, once you're there kind of thing, and it feels like he started to groom her for something that she's not fully aware of, and it had the potential there. It was all very, the build up to it and the premise of it was fantastic, but then you start reading and what happens? It turns into a YA romance story, because of course it frickin' does. Like, no, I read this book to learn about freakish fusions of creatures and human experimentation, and I want to know what's going on with this illness, and I want to know what's going on this creepy ass island. But no, let's have a love triangle going on between the island stable boy and the weird thing that might be living in the woods. Let's do that, shall we? It was so sappy, it went on, and it's just like, I've read this story countless times before. Why do we need to add this element to it? If you want to have a romance element in a horror novel, then yeah, sure, go for it. But it's not why people have tuned in to read. It is not why people have picked up the book, so it shouldn't be the story. It was just so disappointing, because it had such a strong start, but as soon as she gets on that boat, and as soon as she meets that rugged young man, you know you're in trouble. Not the horror I was promised. So yes, I am sorry about including a classic and a king on this list, but they just didn't sit with me, and everyone is entitled to their own opinion, and I'm pretty sure that there are books out there that I absolutely adore that people are going to go, no, that's the worst thing that's ever been written. And everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I'm not here to judge. I'm just saying what doesn't sit well with me. This is a personal bubble right here. A personal bubble that I am now projecting onto the internet for everyone to see, but, you know. So those are my bottom 5 horrible horror books, and I will probably read even more horrible horror books in the future and make a new list, who knows. Just like I will probably read better horror books in the future and make a new list. Who knows, this could be a recurring thing every Halloween. We'll see how long the channel lasts. If you do have any good, decent horror books that you'd like to recommend, then please send them my way. I would love to read them. And I hope you are enjoying this spooky season and just enjoying Preptober as well. I feel like I haven't done as many Preptober videos as I probably should, but we'll see how that one goes. I hope you're doing well, I hope you're staying safe, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye, my scribblers.